It's the little things you do that make a difference. So challenge you. And this is one of the easiest things to do because it takes no extra time. No extra time at all. But what if we set a goal that every day, at least 10 times a day, you will say, I am a world-class CISO, or whatever you want to be. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. You know what time it is. You know what time. Buckle up. Here we go. We're ready to rock and roll. It is time. It is time, my friends. It is time for Life of a CISO. With yours truly, Dr. E is in the house. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you are doing awesome. Just want to remind you that you are awesome, you are amazing, and you are truly a world-class CISO. Right? You might not be in the role yet. You might be 3, 5, 10 years down, but here's the reality. You become what you think about. So how do you see yourself? How do you identify yourself? How do you focus? And how do you put your thoughts on who you want to become? So what if you woke up every day and you said, I am a world-class CISO? Sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, but it's funny. I've learned throughout my life these little hacks. It's the little things that make all the difference. The big things are important, but it's the tweaking and adjusting that's the difference between average and world class. The devil is in the details, as they like to say. It's the little things you do that make a difference. So challenge you. And this is one of the easiest things to do because it takes no extra time. No extra time at all. But what if we set a goal that every day, at least 10 times a day, you will say, I am a world-class CISO, or whatever you want to be. You might not want to be a world-class CISO. You might want to be something else. But what I challenge you for is words matter. And emphasis matters. We just don't want to say, I want to be a CISO. What we want to be is world-class. If you're listening to my podcast, we're not average. I don't want you to be good. I don't want you to be average. Whatever you do, whatever you choose to pursue, I want to be world-class. Now, you might like successful. You might like some other words, but we want to always be specific with what we want. Because here's the reality. If I say, I want to be a CISO, and that's all I focus on. Let me ask you a question. If I put you in a small company where you are the CISO, but because it's only a 2-person company, you're really setting up, configuring, and running IT. You're not really doing strategy. You're not really doing any of the strategic roles, but you have the title. And oh, by the way, the company is not doing very well, so you're not getting paid. Oh, and you're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Is that really what you want? No, but here's the reality. It fits your definition of I want to be a CISO. Because here's the crazy part. Our minds are goal-achieving machines. And they're always about how can we achieve the goal in the quickest, fastest manner with the least amount of obstacles. Now, I know I always get a little crazy with you, but I also believe in energy, and I believe that there's a powerful universe that works in our favor and helps us. So now, when we say, I want to be a CISO, not only am I aligning my mind and body, but I'm sending that message out to the universe. And now, my mind and the universe are going to say, okay, how can we achieve this in the fastest, quickest, most optimized way? So if all you say, I want to be a CISO, you might get the title in a way that you don't want or desire. Because remember, be careful what you wish for, right? So you want to make sure you go in and you are very specific about what it is you want. So you want to, but you don't want to get crazy too. You want to have a detailed list. Now, yes, you should have on a piece of paper a detailed description of where you want to be in 5 years. So it should have all the details of salary, position, all that stuff. But here's the reality. That takes 5 or 10 minutes to read, and you can't read that every single day. Sorry, you can't read that every minute of every day, but you should read it every day. So here's the strategy. You have a written description of what a world-class CISO means to you, and you read it every morning. So now your mind knows when you say world-class CISO, I'm referring to this. I'm referring to this detailed description that takes 5 or 10 minutes to read. And then throughout the day, whenever you have a free second, whenever you're going between meetings, you just say, I'm a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. And the goal is to say it as many times as possible. I start with 10, but the reality is that I probably say my I am statements probably hundreds of times a day. Why? Because I've trained myself. When we're going between meetings, your mind is always thinking, right? It's always thinking, it's always doing things. So you might be thinking about, things you need to do, which is good, but you might also be thinking about the past, regrets, and other stuff, which isn't good, right? We always have that voice inside of us that might say we're not good enough, we're this or that. So what we want to do is replace that voice, that's that negative voice that says I'm not good enough, that whenever it wants to speak, instead we go, I'm a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. Like I said, I know crazy, but we do crazy here. We love crazy on Life of a CISO with Dr. E. So what if you just started training your mind that anytime you had a free second, anytime those negative thoughts want to come up in your mind, you go, I am a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. So you wake up in the morning, and the first thing you do before you get out of bed is, I'm a world-class CISO. And then you're brushing your teeth, you look in the mirror, you look in the eyes, I'm a world-class CISO. And then you're getting ready, I'm a world-class CISO. And then you're getting ready to drive for the office, and you want to start worrying, or that negative voice comes up, you go, no, I'm a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO, right? And once again, that one tweak, which isn't taking any time, it's a net positive, right? It's not using up any additional time, money, or energy, effort. But if you can get yourself in that one simple habit of just doing an I am statement throughout the day. I am a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. I'm a world-class CISO. Now, a lot of people are going to go, but Eric, doesn't that get a little crazy and insane over time? But guess what? It will be something you're obsessed with now. What will happen over time is that conviction gets so strong, I'm a world-class CISO, that no one believe it. Like you don't have to say it anymore. Like I don't have to go in and say, I'm Eric Cole. I'm Eric Cole. I'm Eric Cole. But guess what? When I was 3 or 4 years old and I was learning to speak and read and learn who I am, what did my parents and teachers do? They had me repeat it. When a kid is learning, you have them repeat things over and over again, right? So yes, when I was younger and I didn't know who I was, I would go, I am Eric. I am Eric. I'm Eric. Once I knew who I was, Eric, and when people say, hey, Eric, or Eric Cole, and I knew that was me, and I raised my hand or stood up, I didn't need to say it anymore. So the trick is, once you truly believe it, like 100% conviction, like there's no doubt in your mind, your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, you are so convinced you're a world-class CISO, zero doubt. You know for a fact you are a world-class CISO. That's how you operate and that's how you show up. Then you can move to a new I am statement. And it might be aligned with what you're focused on for that month or that quarter. If you listen to my other podcast, Bulletproof Cyber, or other episodes, you know that I'm very big on having a yearly word. Like, what is the focus for the year? And then in order to achieve that focus for the year, what is your focus for the month? What is your focus for the week? So a lot of times my M statement is going to be focused on what I need to do that week. So for example, I'm big on fitness. I use it as a simple example. If you're big on getting fit and right now you don't see yourself as fit, right? You look and go, man, I'm lazy. I'm out of shape. I'm overweight, or whatever it is you say, or the way you see yourself is you then switch it. So then once you know you're world-class CISO, you go and say, okay, I am fit. I am lean, right? And you just get your mind focused on who you want to become and who you want to be. So now that we know you are a world-class CISO, let's focus in on what is it you're really focused on right now in being a world-class CISO. What is it you're focused on over a year? And one of the things we want to make sure of is what you focus on is where energy goes, right? Focus goes where energy flows. So those two are aligned. What is it that you're really focused on being a world-class CISO? To me, if you want to be a world-class CISO, if we drop that down a level, world-class CISOs focus on balancing risk and innovation. That's what makes a CISO world-class. Now, communicating with executives also makes you world-class, right? Relating to people, explaining things in simple, easy to understand terms, all world-class CISO. But we always want to go in and say, okay, what's an area that we need to improve or get better at? What is an area that we're currently not doing as well a job as that we need to do a better job as? And I would argue right now, when I'm working with a lot of CISOs and a lot of people that want to become CISOs, there is so much going on with reactive today, right? Dealing with the new threats, dealing with new risks, dealing with ransomware, dealing with incidents, dealing with all those things that are focused now with many CISOs is almost 100% risk. What are the risks? How do we avoid them? How do we minimize them? How do we reduce them? But the reality is, what makes somebody world-class, what makes me so valuable to my clients is I can see into the future. I have a crystal ball. I know where things are going over the next 3 to 5 years. And how do you know that? Well, let me ask you a question. How does the weatherman know what's going to happen in the future? Right? Meteorologists are fortune tellers. If you really think about the job of a meteorologist has a crystal ball where they're predicting the future. If you were watching the Weather Channel and the meteorologist came on and did what we tend to focus on as a CISO today, which is, okay, today it rained. Today it was cloudy. Yesterday it was sunny. The day before it was a little cloudy. And that's all the meteorologist told you? That's not really helpful to you, right? I know that, right? Telling me that it rained yesterday, who cares? Telling me that, it snowed 3 days ago, who cares? That's not what I need you for. I need you to tell me what the weather is for tomorrow so I can plan. I need to know what the weather is going to be for a week or 2 weeks from now so I can adjust my schedule. I might plan on having a big outside event on Saturday. But if it's going to potentially rain, then I might need to order a tent. I might need to plan ahead, right, logistically, and do that. So meteorologists are so valuable because they predict the future. Now, how do they predict the future? Because let's be honest, most meteorologists do a pretty good job. Not always correct, and sometimes it changes. But today, they've done such a really good job. Why? What makes a meteorologist have the ability to predict the future? analysis and correlation of historical data. Right? They have a ton of historical data where they know, okay, if all of a sudden the barometric pressure changes, if all of a sudden the humidity changes, if all of a sudden this changes and that changes, and they have all these data points that they can go in and know, okay, when these data points indicate something of a certain situation, it means rain, it means snow, it means sunny, it means windy. So they're really good at that analysis. And that's what we need to do. We have the historical data, but we need to do a better job analyzing and looking at it to predict the future. Now, here's where it's beautiful. Here's where we're at a perfect storm. Meteorologists always did a good job, but in the 60s or 70s, they weren't as accurate and they weren't as reliable because manually analyzing and looking at historical data took a lot of time, took a lot of energy, right? And a lot amount of processing. Humans are really good at creative thinking, coming up with new ideas and problem solving. However, because we have one computer, right, we are not as good necessarily at parallel processing and complex analysis. We are, but it takes a ton of time. If I gave a human 1,000 data points and said, I want you to review every single data point and I want you to look for the similarities and differences, that would be very, very hard, complex, and take a long amount of time because of the extreme amount of processing power, which we don't have as much of that. So what changed the weather industry? The introduction of computers and AI. Meteorologists have been using AI for a long time. If you look at their systems, the Doppler 3000, that's an AI system. I believe it came out in the 80s or 90s. So computers and AI allowed the meteorologists to do such a better job. So guess what? We now have AI. We now have all the data. So here's the coolest part. You now can go in and literally, and I do this, it's crazy. I go in and I go into my AI agent and I did it this morning. I said, okay, you know I work in cybersecurity, right? Because it gets trained on me and how I think. And I want you to look at over the next year and tell me, what do you think the biggest trends are over the next year? Now, here's where we need to be important. If it comes back and it gives me data, and it just said, okay, here's the 5 trends I see based on the data. If we took that on face value, and we just had AI give us the data saying, these are the trends for the future, and then that's what we focus on. That's what we went to our executives going on saying, okay, these are the 5 things for innovation that we need to focus on, we need to think about, we need to look at the future so we can get ahead of the curve. You are going to be good, but you're on a very dangerous path because you're going to get replaced. If I'm asking AI a question and it gives me an answer and all I'm doing is relaying the answer to my boss, that is basically going to be redundant. Because guess what? My boss could just ask AI directly. It would be quicker and faster. So this is where AI gets a little dangerous and we have to be careful. If all we're doing is asking it questions, and yes, asking it the right questions is important. But once we figure out what that right question is, if now my boss wants to know what the big risk is to cybersecurity, and they know the question to ask, and they could ask me and pay me a lot of money, and then I go off Ask AI, I take it, I come back, and it takes 20 minutes and very expensive. Or they could just open up their computer, ask AI, get the answer directly. Quicker, faster, easier. This is where, when you talk to a lot of people with AI, that gets people scared and afraid that it's going to replace us. It's going to take over us. And if we're just giving question and answer and relying directly on those answers from AI, then yes, it's a dangerous world and we can be replaced. But here's what I do. I take what AI gives me, those 5 things. I always ask AI, by the way, I never, ever ask AI for a single answer because I don't want it to answer the question for me. I want it to give me data. So I always say, give me the top 10 or give me the top 5 or give me the top 20 areas of innovation for cyber that you're seeing out there today. And then I do what AI can't do. I do what a computer can't do, and this is why I will never be replaced with AI. I then look at all those things and go, okay, how are these going to be received by the executives? Because I know there's sensitivities around these. Like, for example, it might go in and say the future is on data correlation and SIM. But here's the reality. A year ago, the previous CISO spent $5 million on a data correlation project that failed. It actually gave inaccurate data and actually caused the company to lose money. So guess what? It's a very sensitive topic. The current executives are like, okay, data correlation is bad. It's not good. So now if I just gave it this answer that because AI doesn't know emotions. It's not in the meetings. It doesn't know how people think and how people act and all those other factors. So I go in and say, okay, maybe we don't do data correlation. Maybe we pick a different topic, or we go in a different area or a different focus. So then I go in and do the creative analysis. I look at all those 10 areas and I go, okay, based on my experience, based on the interaction, based on what I know about the company, based on all these other factors that AI is not able to do, I then go in and say, okay, which of these 10 is the best area? And then guess what? If I don't like any of the 10, I go back and I ask God, give me another 10. I don't like these. These aren't good. I want better ones. And you get more information and more data. So notice, I am now using AI as a tool to help me, not as a replacement. And that's where I think we have to be so careful of how we're using AI. If we're just using AI to give us answers and we're blindly trusting those answers, then yes, we could be replaced. But if we're adding more value and more benefit around it, then we'll be irreplaceable. So with that theme, we now today have the tools and techniques, just like a meteorologist, to predict the future. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much life experience you have. You now have a crystal ball. You now can use AI and you can go in, and I recommend doing this quarterly, where every quarter you're saying, okay, what is innovation I need to be thinking about? Because this is 3 to 5 years. You're thinking very far out, so it's not going to change that often. So every quarter I do a little innovation session with myself going, okay, if I'm a world-class CISO, what are the new areas or innovations that we need to come up with, or we need to create, or we need to do over the next 3 to 5 years? What are going to be projects or things that we're going to need to do over the next 3 to 5 years that we're currently not doing? And then every month and every week and every day we say, okay, what can I focus an hour on a week on this new innovation? And then we're starting to be innovators. Because here's the problem. What made us so valuable as security engineers is our ability to innovate, our ability to come up with new creative ideas. However, as I said, we got so caught up with fire drills and incidents and everything else, the innovation piece has been lost. If we don't get that back, we are going to continue in this problematic area. Because guess what? firefighting 24/7. Firefighting as 100% of your time, energy, and effort is not efficient. We want to stop the fires from starting. We want to be preventive as possible. And the way you prevent fires from being started is with innovation and creativity, is by being more innovative and creative. So I just want you, as you go through this week, just think about, how can I start spending a little more time on innovation? How can I spend my time on being a little more creative and a little more focused? Because the more creative and focused we are, the more proactive we can be. And the more proactive and preventive, the more valuable we're going to be as a world-class CISO.